the most important article in here is that GeekWire one under Claude Code. And the reason for that is that I am quoted in it.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. There was a Claude Code Seattle meetup last night, and it was put on by PSL, and they last minute needed a bunch of people to like demo and present. And I was like, well, I could demo, sure. So I demoed, and also Taylor Soper, who wrote this article, was there and interviewed me a little bit. So I get quoted in the article.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, and Anthropic sponsored this event, and PSL helped organize and host it. And it was going to be at PSL originally, but then too many people signed up for it. Apparently, they hit the limit in about 3 hours after posting the event.
Wow.
So they moved it somewhere else, and that could pack 150 people in, which is approximately how many people were there. So
that's pretty impressive.
Hello and welcome to the Fast and Broken podcast, where we take a critical look at the fast-moving world of tech and online culture. I'm Carly Rector, a software engineer and startup founder who demoed at the Claude Code meetup in Seattle last night and met a lot of cool people, and in fact shilled this podcast a little bit. So it was fun.
And I'm Teresa Kramer, a MBA student, project manager, and semi-professional voice actor who has only really shilled this podcast to my little brother, who apparently listens. So, you know, like, hello to my little brother, who is probably listening to this.
So yeah, we will be talking about Claude Code a little bit. Like, there's just a lot of reporting around how excited people are about it, and it's interesting because it hasn't really changed in like the last month or so, but people just suddenly got really excited about it. So we'll talk about that a little bit, but that will be after we talk about updates with Grok and a bunch of stuff that has happened on that front in the last week.
Yeah.
Some good. And then some we'll just get into. And then that's it for this week.
Yeah.
We've got 2 meaty topics. I think that's enough for now. All right. So let's start with Grok. So I think last week I mentioned that Musk had basically not made any real comment on it or even made the argument that it was free speech, etc. And it was just kind of like letting it slide. After the UK actually threatened to cut off X in the UK, he did respond by tweeting and saying, "Why is the UK so fascist?" Which is cool, great, love it.
No.
Similarly, other things that happened, the U.S. Senate did actually respond in a way, such that they passed the Defiance Act, which is, they had actually already passed once before in 2024, I think, but it didn't pass the House, and it still hasn't passed the House, but they did it again, I guess, as a response to be like, no, we really don't think this should be allowed, and it allows individuals to sue the creators of non-consensual sexually explicit AI images, basically. I forget what Defiance is an acronym for, but it's an acronym.
It is held at desk at the House, it looks like.
All right.
So the House does still need to kind of go back and review it.
Yeah.
Which is always annoying. Like, just kind of like, come on, you guys, please.
Like, the Senate passed it unanimously. So bipartisan, etc. It just needs to get through the House. So it's one of those things where it's real hard to argue against. It's hard to be like, no, we should be allowing sexually explicit AI generated images of minors on X. Like, no one's going to step up and say like, yeah, I think that should be happening. They're just kind of hoping to let it slide under the radar, I think, is what everyone has been hoping can happen. But I think probably the House has to do something. Maybe they can get away with just not doing anything about it. I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows? We'll have to see. Because the one in 2024 was also held on desk at the House indefinitely. So that'll really be a matter of like, hey, are you going to do that? Are you going to do anything about it? So
yeah,
we'll see.
And I also linked this Atlantic article that is titled "Elon Musk Cannot Get Away with This," which I appreciated because yes, that is my feeling. The subtitle here being, if there's no red line around AI generated sex abuse, then no line exists. And talking about, they asked for comment basically like from all of these big companies that invested in XAI, like, what is your statement on this and are you supporting this behavior? And basically got no comment from any of them. And
Yeah.
just like hoping that there's too much going on and we all stop paying attention, I guess. Um,
I found the initialism that the Defiance Act is, and it's actually really great, so
yes.
I feel like
Okay.
I need to share it. It is the Disrupt Explicit Forged Images and Non-Consensual Edits Act,
Nice.
which
Yes.
is actually, that is a great initialism for Defiance. I applaud whoever came up with that.
Yeah, that's
So
their only joy in Congress, I gather, is coming up with
with
cool
initialisms, yeah.
initialism, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I can't see how this is a thing that people are just going to like ignore. The more people it impacts, it's the more people that it happens to. I feel like the more you're going to get people up in arms about it. Like, oh yeah, if it happened to like somebody you don't know, like sure you might be like whatever, but like, you know, it's like if it happens to someone you know, it's a pretty big breach of like privacy and dignity and stuff like that. It's like, no, these are not people asking for it. It's non-consensual. That's part of the the initialism is
Yep.
that it's non-consensual.
That's what the N stands
So
for.
the N and the C, they actually put both of them in. So yeah.
Yeah, I appreciated a big mainstream article just being like, you just can't let them get away with this. And then the biggest action that happened here is this X did actually kind of do something more than just the paywall thing that we talked about. They had a post again on the safety account, not from Elon Musk directly, saying they would disable Grok from making all explicit images of real people. That's Grok on X, I think. If you're using the actual Grok app in like a private chat, you can still do it, but not even paid users can now at Grok and say, put her in a bikini. So that part is gone, except that for the amount of people that are still trying to get around those guardrails, which they are.
Yeah, because it's like I'm like, okay, that thing is gone, but like countless times here we have talked about the fact that it's like you're like, okay, cool, we're gonna tell the AI you can't make SpongeBob, and it's like, congratulations, like people can still make SpongeBob. You know, it's like they're still gonna figure out how to get around it. It's like I feel like that does not mean a whole lot.
This NPR Morning Edition has a quote that said like, Elon Musk challenged users to break Grok's image moderation, which several quickly did. He blamed lapses on, quote, adversarial hacking and said any problems would be fixed immediately. So, like, his at least done something, I guess.
Something. Yeah, it feels like a very like lip service sort of like something to do about it. Just like, oh, let's see, look, we fixed it. Like it feels like it's like it's not actually stopping the thing from happening. It's just kind of like pushing. I don't know. They're trying to like pass the buck on responsibility for the thing happening.
Yeah,
So
and I like,
yeah,
and I mean, I feel like because it was already such a trend, they're in trouble now because, like,
yeah,
even if we assume their guardrails are now just as good as any other image generating platform, which I would doubt, but even if we assume that, people on Grok are now used to doing this on Grok and will continue to pressure it and find those places and continue
right.
doing it as whatever ways they can, unless you take like a real strong stance against it at this point. And I don't think he's really taking a real strong stance against
No.
it. So.
No, it like, and also he doesn't seem the type of person to take a strong stance against this kind of thing. Seems like his bread and butter. So
Yes, well, I mean, he was just calling the UK fascist and saying that they wanted to suppress free speech about it. So.
Yeah, exactly. So doesn't seem like he's going to reverse that sort of tack. I do hope that like UK bans X, that would be like an awesome outcome to this whole thing. And UK's done some weird stuff lately, to be entirely honest.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. It's just, yeah, it's frustrating. It's deeply frustrating. I do just want more government and, you know, payment processors and like other kind of like influential figures within the market economy, like the capitalist society that we live in, to take a stronger stance of like, no, that's not okay. And I'm actually going to like put my foot down and not, you know, engage with this platform until it is fixed. And so it's like, that's like, it's not it's not happening really, but like at least there are some things that are happening, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yes. There more things happened in the last week than I feared in our last podcast.
Right.
I still don't think the problem is solved.
No, heck no.
I have wider society issues in our thing here, but there's a couple other things there first. But yeah, it's like
Mhm.
it's still really depressing how people have not said anything about it just because it's
Yeah.
Elon Musk. Because you would think it would not be that
Mhm.
hard to be like, yes, I roundly condemn all of this behavior and hope they block this from happening immediately. Like, that's a
Yeah.
extremely non-controversial thing to say.
Right. That's very, very lukewarm. That's tepid at best in terms of takes, but it's like, but also we're not even getting that. So it's like, what the heck, you guys? It's like, yeah, like, I don't know, like in my head, it's like there's this deeply annoying sort of like cult of personality development that we are having in our current weird late stage capitalism hellscape. It is one of those things that I'm just kind of like, you wouldn't be like, oh, I don't want to say anything bad about like IBM because I don't want to piss off IBM CEO, because it's like chances are your average person on the street had no clue who IBM CEO was at any point in
Yeah.
time. And except, but now it's like we know the names of like the biggest players in technology and in AI and all of these things, and their personalities I feel like have more to do with, you know, policy decisions being made and like trade agreements being made. It's like their personalities have more to do with the actual business than the products they are selling. And it's just like that feels so weird, and it feels like a cult almost. Elon Musk is not selling, he's not really even selling like Grok or X or Tesla or whatever. He's selling Elon Musk. And
Mhm.
if you believe in Elon Musk, then you support those products. And if you don't believe in Elon Musk, you don't support those products. And I feel like,
if you don't support the products, you don't support Elon Musk, and you get his personal ire, which apparently
right,
like
exactly.
and the entire force of his fan base coming down on you, which you don't want. And it's
Yeah,
like, I understand not wanting that, but also you got to have a little bit of a spine if you're someone in a position of power. Come on.
yeah. Yeah, like come the frick on, like to steal from my former governor Tim Walz, like, you know, it's not my former, he was never my governor, but governor of my where I used to live, Tim Walz. It's like that's weird. You know, it's like they are just, it is so weird that that's the world we live in, and that's sort of like the trend that things are taking, where it's like it doesn't matter so much if it's a sound business decision or if it's the right thing to do. It's just like, oh, do I want to piss off this particular CEO
Yeah.
and his little band of cronies? You know, it's like that's just such a messed up place to be.
Yep. It's just real bad. And then,
Yeah.
and then before I segue, because I was going to segue from that, but there's one more thing that I have linked in here that I would like to talk about specifically, which is we talked about last time that individuals could sue X. One
Yeah.
particular individual who is already suing X is Ashley St. Clair, mother of one of Elon Musk's children.
Oh
I
yeah.
think the most recent one of his children. It's always hard to tell.
It is always hard to tell given how weird he is with children.
Yeah. And she's had some amount of conflict with him in general, which is why, against his wishes, she came forth as I am the mother of one of Elon Musk's children. Anyway, she's one of the many people who people have undressed using Grok, and she is suing X for that. Um,
Mhm.
and filed suit against XAI in New York State, requesting a restraining order to prevent XAI from making further deepfakes of her, and the case was quickly moved to a federal court on Thursday. She's
Mhm.
alleging that the company has created a public nuisance and the product is unreasonably dangerous as designed, similar to used in other social media cases advancing this year, focusing on product liability.
Mhm.
Which, yep,
Yeah. Yeah, more Section 230 stuff to see how far does that stretch for you guys. So
yeah.
that'll be very
Yeah, they
interesting.
mentioned specifically she's represented by Carrie Goldberg, who's been at the forefront of these kinds of arguments. It argues that Section 230 should shield AI because material generated and published by Grok is XII's own creation. So, like we talked about last week, where it's like
Yeah.
your own platform's tool is generating this content. Like, if you didn't want
Mhm.
to have liability for this content, maybe it shouldn't be able to generate it.
Yeah, definitely.
um, Yeah.
So because I think Goldberg is the one who represented the victims of Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
So very, very experienced in a lot of like just on her Wikipedia page. She's very big about like individuals who have to deal with like revenge porn, online abuse, and intimate partner violence and
Mhm.
things like that. So definitely this is her wheelhouse. So it's like good to see that like there's somebody with experience in the arena representing the case because like for me on the like just political side of things, it's like I want to see it have as much of a chance as possible
Mhm.
to like go forward and set that appropriate legal precedent so that other people can kind of come forward. So yes, good on you, Ashley St. Clair,
Yeah.
and also good on you, Carrie Goldberg. Wish you the best.
Yep. All right. We
So
have a slightly newer update here that I haven't linked, but I see linked here at the bottom of this Verge article, which is California was
mhm,
also taking action, and specifically, it sounds like they sent a cease and desist letter to X about it. Um,
mhm,
the avalanche of reports
that's
detailing
good.
this material is shocking and, as my office has determined, potentially illegal.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Thanks, California.
I mean, we can always count on Gavin Newsom and his his government to just be like, "Oh, what? You don't want us to do this thing? I'm going to go do it now."
Yep.
you know, it's like I do appreciate his I don't know gumption. I feel like it's the right word, maybe, and just like being unafraid of being loud about standing up to all of this nonsense that
Hmm.
conservatives and the weird technocracy elite has been creating.
Yeah. So yeah, that's good. Some amount of action is being taken on
Yeah.
it. The other one that I want to talk here is the sort of like more from a broader societal perspective that I didn't really get
Mm,
into last week, but I have been thinking about. I have linked here the Atlantic's Galaxy Brain podcast, which was talking about it, and it's titled "The Problem Is So Much Bigger Than Grok."
yeah.
And in the
Mhm.
intro, Sophie Gilbert from The Atlantic says upfront something that I was thinking last week, but like couldn't figure out how to explain. So it's like it just shows how in some parts on the internet people do not see women as people.
Yeah.
And every time I want to say there are people who just don't see women as people, a really large amount of people. I know that there are guys who'll be like, that sounds ridiculous. And it's like, okay, but look,
Mhm.
listen. Like, first of all, I think you're underestimating the degree to which some of these people don't think of us as people. But also, like,
Yeah.
it doesn't even need to be that extreme for that to be true. Like, if you imagine what I've talked about before, like this archetype of a guy who thinks he's the perfectly objective observer of everything at all times and rational in all his decisions. That guy often does not think women think rationally, basically, just
Yeah.
like as a
Mhm.
blanket statement. He will interact with at least some amount of other men as if they are rational deciders and can engage with him on a real intellectual level. And he just assumes women cannot.
Yeah.
And women have an entirely different and completely emotional and irrational way of making decisions. And like that, I would call not thinking of women as people
Yeah.
because you're not thinking of them as an entity that you can engage with on an intellectual level that you would interact with any other person on.
No,
And
yeah, it's objectification at its core
yeah.
because like the word objectification gets tossed around so much they think it's sometimes easy to forget that like the what that word
Yeah.
means is turning a woman into an object. It is like turning a woman into a thing rather than treating women as like people with agency, with thoughts, with rationale, like, with emotions and what have
Hmm.
you. So it is like, yeah, at its, and the thing is like, yeah, I would deeply agree that the internet has accelerated the objectification of women in a way that, we had not seen before we had this technology. And certainly like, yeah, I feel like AI is just like the latest on top of that
Hmm.
because yeah, it's like so now like these people seem to think that like, they have the ability to just like create women whole cloth out of nothingness.
Hmm.
Like one in the context of these like undress this woman and for them it's like I think it's just an image or
Yeah,
it's
it's a
just like,
like
like
it's a fun game with fun toys, and it's like don't
right.
they're people. There's people behind that. And it's like
There are people behind that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but like even outside of that realm of like cueing Grok to undress this specific woman, cueing Grok to like create an image of a naked woman is like requiring that Grok has been trained upon multiple images of actual naked women. And it gets like, this is where it gets a little bit murky because like, you know, it's like on the one hand, it's like, yeah, like fictional characters are fictional. And there's an important divide there. There's an important divide to recognize between like what happens in fiction and what happens in reality. But also like the exploitative nature of AI is such that the fictional things it creates, especially like fictional like photos and images that are rendered in a realistic palette, it's built on pictures of real people.
Yeah.
And so it's much less so than saying like, you know, like a comic character is fictional or a character in a book is fictional. It is just sort of like, you know, hyper speed objectification in a way. Right?
Another trend that I hate that I think 404 Media reported on is like guides on like how to make your own Instagram influencer AI woman, basically like for men, so that women don't get all the like the cachet of being an Instagram influencer and making a lot of money. You can just like make your own sexy woman influencer by yourself. And a lot of how they suggest you do this is steal real content from real women and have AI face swap onto them, basically. Because it's hard to get AI to generate like actually good content from scratch, especially sexy content, because they do have guardrails on some of these systems. But it's easier to get it to just like face swap in your AI generated woman into an image of an actual woman going about her life on Instagram. Which is like, okay, great. Like that's real objectification exploitation. You're literally taking this woman's body and using it for your own enrichment. And
you're literally at that point in time like commodifying it. You're commodifying this woman's experiences for your own personal, like, and it's like that is like putting aside entirely influencer culture and how it encourages women to like commodify themselves for consumption, like in the feeds and in, you know, like this weird like hustle economy that we have and what have you. It's like putting that entirely aside. It's like you're then abstracting like the actual woman an additional layer away from it because you're just like, oh, it's like you've been forced by society to commodify yourself in order to make a living. Okay, cool. I'm going to take you out of that equation.
Okay, and but you're so entitled using yourself as a commodity to make money. Why should you own that commodity?
Right, exactly.
Whose person it is. It's like
no, it's objectification on steroids. You know, we have just accelerated this weird like, you know, problem in society where men don't see women as having any like agency or any like right to, you know, do anything. And now it's just like we've just given them another tool to kind of like remove women's agency from the equation.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of like, cool.
But yeah, like that's,
I hate it.
That's sort of the high level undercurrent why the Grok stuff makes me so unhappy. There are many reasons why it makes me unhappy, but like it is indicative of a culture on X, but also that exists in general of just like, oh, this is just fun and games because it's not like there are real people being harmed by it. It's just like looking at images of women in bikinis. It's like, okay, but these are real people who you're harassing that they have feelings. And it's just like, no, it's free speech. Everyone should be able to look at women in bikinis like that. You're not focusing on the object of this at all. You're just like, you're talking about the person who's speaking, where speaking is taking someone else's image and non-consensually undressing it. And it's like, that's
not speech. And like, you know, it's like without getting too deep, like again, because like as we've talked about on this podcast, like the like free speech when it relates to like explicit content and pornography and things like that is very murky waters, and it's very like difficult to navigate, not the least of which because it becomes a very slippery slope to like punish behaviors that like societal norms deem as like deviant, or like, you know, things like, you know, trans people, homosexuality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But even like that aside, it's like AI generated stuff gets into such a weird place when it comes to free speech, because it's like, it's not your speech, really.
Yeah.
It's like if you drew a picture of a naked woman, you're entitled to do that. I am never going to say that people can't draw pictures of naked women. Go on, draw as many pictures of naked women as you want. Because at least then you have to, like, you're putting in the effort there. And also, like, I don't know, you have to acknowledge that there's a woman in front of you that you're drawing, at least, like, from reference or something like that. So it's just like, yeah, I don't know. It's so complicated because yeah, it's like whenever we get into these discussions, it's always like there's this one side of it that's the, like, objectifying women side of it, and the, like, you know, like what's like morally okay to do to people on the internet side of it. But then there's this other side of it that's like, okay, but also, like, the sex positivity side of it, and the, you know, it's like the slippery slope of censorship of pornography side of it. That's just like it's so it's such a weirdly tangled issue that's kind of hard to, like
we've talked before on, like, some of the AI chatbot stuff, sex chatbot things. There's a lot of, like, reaction to it that is just like, porn is bad. And I think there's some of the reaction to the Grok stuff that is just like, porn is bad. I would
porn
bet
is bad,
some of the Senate response to it is just like, you shouldn't have sexy pictures of women on your platform at all. Like, it doesn't matter how it's generated or who it's of or whether it was consenting or not. It's just like, porn is bad. And there are definitely many politicians that believe that unconditionally and are trying to make legislation such that that is the case. And I don't believe that. And I think we should be very careful of that, because that's a bad slope to go down.
That's a very slippery slope. It's like, I think it's like where that might have been one of the places, like, where slippery slope got its definition from. I might have to look that up, but it's like, yeah, it's like it's a very chilling effect to just be like absolutely no nudity or whatever. But yeah, it's like that's not where this conversation stops. So
yeah, and that's like, it seems like there should be a relatively easy distinction between any nudity at all and non-consensual AI-generated images of some other person.
Yeah.
But that, again, requires acknowledging that there's some other person's consent that matters in this use case. So
yeah, I think the consent is at the very core of it the most important part. If a person is putting a picture of themselves up on the internet, like if they're doing an OnlyFans, or even if they're just like an Instagram influencer and they're doing stuff that's salacious, and like in states of undress or whatever, if they're the one doing it and they're doing it entirely of their own power, then it's like, that's fine, because they are inherently then consenting for that image to exist online. But then for anybody to like either then take that image and modify it, or, like, you know, manipulate it, if unless they've, like, given Creative Commons license or something like that, it's like, no, they have not given their consent for you to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of just, like, stealing content from OnlyFans and uploading it elsewhere, because how dare the woman ask people to pay for her content that she generates. And, like, a lot of undercurrent again there of this sense that, like, women's bodies are a public commodity or something like that, which is just like, women should not be allowed to make money from their own thing. Everyone else is entitled to see them naked.
I feel like that's also like where so much of the like the deeply, like, the ethical problems with the porn industry kind of stem from. It's like if it's exploitative, if it's something where it's like the woman doesn't have, like, full consent and isn't getting, like, compensated fairly and isn't getting, like, you know, treated like an individual, like a fully, like, you know, autonomous individual in the generation of this content, that's a problem. The content is not the problem. Like, it's, I do feel, like, consent is, like, kind of at the core of this. That's what we should be looking for when we're drawing up laws about explicit material and about stuff like that, which is actually why I'm kind of, like, one of the things I'm actually kind of happy that it's in the initialism. We have non-consensual in the initialism. So because that's really ultimately it. Did this person, under no duress, consent to this thing being made? Do they consent to it being modified? Those are, like, the only questions I feel like that need to be answered. And it's like, if they consented to it being made, cool, it can exist on the internet. It can exist wherever whatever they post it. But if they don't consent to it being modified, you're not allowed. Or at least, like, I mean, like, on X, it's whatever, because they're like, oh, anybody can use your images if you post them there because it's in our TOC, and that's very deeply exploitative. But yeah, it's like, But if they had like a toggle that they'll never introduce, of like, no, I don't want my images to be used for Grok or whatever, that would be a way to get around it, or at least a way to kind of like stop it.
Yeah, for the sake of any audience that might not know, some amount of time ago, X did change their terms of service such that by posting any image on the platform, you consent to it being used for training and for Grok being able to modify it in any way, basically. Um, so in terms of like, do the people have the license to be having Grok change it? It's like technically yes, if they posted it on X, because X's terms of service are awful.
Yeah, yeah. Which is why you should delete your X account.
Yep.
It's honestly why I need to delete my X account.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This also comes a lot with the sort of age verification laws, because when it comes to like consent and stuff like that, um, sites like Pornhub especially, has gotten way better about consent stuff in the last like decade or so. And if you try and put something on Pornhub, you have to have consent forms, signed consent forms from all your actors, like for proof of consent, so that's not, it's not
Oh,
exploitative. And
that's delightful. I actually really love that.
and like they do a bunch of stuff that makes it like a pretty like good platform actually for that kind of thing at this point.
Yeah.
Like it was bad in the past, and they had a whole lawsuit about girls do porn and like sex trafficking, real bad stuff that we don't need to get into right now. But
yeah.
But because of that, they made a lot of improvements, and it is actually a pretty solid platform on this point. And they also are following the laws in places like Louisiana that say that you cannot access the platform without verifying your age by just blocking everyone in the state, because they're like, we don't believe in collecting people's IDs to view porn on Pornhub. But a lot of people have said like, okay, what that is going to mean is that people are going to go looking for porn on sites that don't have these really good consent measures in place, and find more exploitative porn, which is bad.
Yeah.
So, because maybe these sites are hosted outside the US and they don't care about complying with Louisiana law or any law in some cases. So, yeah, there's
definitely
just like a lot of stuff there that is completely swept away when the people who are legislating these laws are just like, all porn is bad, which they are. So,
yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, it's so complicated. When you combine all of these different issues into one just weird little amalgam of nonsense.
yeah. But it's like, even given all of that, all of the
Yeah.
Grok stuff seems really unambiguous.
All the Grok stuff is pretty friggin' unambiguous. They shouldn't be doing it, period. And yeah, that's
yeah, and it's still depressing how little people have come out to say like, this is really unambiguously bad and they shouldn't be doing it because they don't want to piss off Elon Musk. It's like,
yeah.
but at least it's cut down a little bit now. You cannot do it directly on X itself, at least. So yes, Claude Code and the release this week of Claude Cowork, which they have already done an expanded release of since they released it not even a week ago, I think. This is really interesting to me, both just because obviously I like Claude Code a lot. I've talked about that on this podcast before, and it's interesting to see how much recognition it's getting really suddenly. On the Hard Fork podcast, they were calling it the biggest thing in AI since ChatGPT release, which is insane, or like a ChatGPT moment, which is like interesting because it's not a moment. Claude Code has existed for 6 months now. Like, why suddenly is everyone really excited about it now? And that's actually one thing I got asked at the Claude Code meetup yesterday, which is like, why now? Like, it's not like it is new, basically. And there are some various reasons for that. One theory is that a lot of people were playing with it over the holiday break and therefore got excited about it. And in fact, there were a couple of like high profile AI names that were playing with it over the holiday break and made tweets about it that were very complimentary, even if they had talked about it not being that great in the past. So that got more people to try it out, and then it just kind of snowballed, I think. And even before then, I was seeing a pretty strong trend of people who were not software engineers saying like, Claude Code is badly named because it's not just for code. It is just like an agent that can actually do stuff well and like can manage all of your knowledge work. And so there were a lot of people who were just like, okay, I'm not a coder, but I installed Claude and had it like organize all my files and like go through all of my past like podcasts and extracts insights from it that I could then use, and like a whole bunch of stuff about like the things that you can do with Claude Code that are not doing code. But are basically just like by running it in a terminal and giving it access to your files and it allowing it to take multiple steps without talking to you. It can get a lot of stuff done, basically. Why I think this is an interesting story from a product development perspective is that Anthropic clearly saw that. It's a lot of people being like, we're not coders and we're not used to using a command line interface, but we're downloading Claude Code anyway, and it's really helpful, even though the interface is like really terrible for us, basically. And they were like, well, what if we made a product that was Claude Code, but with a luxury interface? So they did that, which is called Claude Cowork, and it just exists in the Claude desktop app. You can go in and basically give it access to a folder on your computer, and otherwise it mostly works like Claude Code. And I linked this Business Insider article here that I thought was interesting, which is they said that they built Claude Cowork using Claude Code in less than 2 weeks.
Amazing.
Which like that checks out to me. I mean, it's just like basically Claude Code with a better interface. Like there's a little bit more in there, and then I think it has a virtual environment. It only runs on Mac right now because it has a virtual environment for it to run its scripts in and stuff like that doesn't require you to configure a development environment on your computer yourself, which is not a thing that most people do. And just like some other stuff around the interface. So it's like, yeah, I would believe that you could build that in 2 weeks using Claude Code. So they did that, and then they released it. And they released it. What was the actual date of the release? Was the 12th. So 4 days ago. Initially, it was just like a research preview for only Claude Max users, which is the people paying $100 or $200 a month, which does include me. But as of today, Claude Pro users can also use it, which is the people paying $20 a month. So they have already incorporated some feedback from the first 4 days of usage and decided that they can expand it to a lot more people, apparently. So, which is just like, that's super interesting to me. I mean, all of Claude Code is a really interesting product story to me, because I think I mentioned before, Claude Code was an internal tool within Anthropic. They did not plan to launch it as a consumer product. They built it as an internal tool, and they were using it within Anthropic, and then they saw that it had like 90% adoption between people within Anthropic, and they were like, are those numbers wrong? Because that's insane. But it wasn't. It was just really useful for people. And so they were like, okay, this seems to be really useful for people. Do we want to like release it? Especially because there were other coding agents, like frameworks that existed at the time, like Cursor or Copilot. And they're like, well, it's not really a flashy one. It's just like a command line tool, but people seem to like it a lot within Anthropic. We can try launching it and see if people like it. And then people did like it a lot. I hear they're making like $1 billion of annualized revenue from Claude Code only at this point.
That's pretty impressive.
OpenAI is making more than that from all of their stuff combined, certainly. But certainly not from one thing they launched 6 months ago that they didn't intend to be a consumer product to start with.
Right. Yeah.
But then they're just like seeing how people use it and responding to it and launching things quickly about it. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
My gosh. It's like that's how a business is supposed to operate.
Anyway, though, and so yeah, like a lot of people are really excited about it. And then, as I mentioned up front, they have been doing some like community meetups over the past like month-ish in various locations, run just by Claude enthusiasts in the community. And Pioneer Square Labs, where I do some work, was sponsoring the Seattle one. And so I did a demo there last night, and this GeekWire article about it quotes me, which is exciting. So
that is exciting. Very cool.
But yeah, it's a news story just now, just because it has gotten so much hype in the last month suddenly. And if you're outside of it, you're like, why is it getting so much hype so suddenly? Not really clear, except that it's really cool. And it's like, I've been saying this the whole time. No one understands.
We have evidence. Listen to this podcast. We've been saying this the whole time. You can quote us on it.
Yeah, but
they did quote you on it.
They did quote me on it. Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the Hard Fork podcast, they talked about like as reporters, we built some stuff using Claude Code, and then they had other people write in the intervening week saying like, we heard you talking about it and we tried it out, and here's some stuff that we built, basically. So they did a quick like show and tell of some of those that they had gotten, which were pretty cool.
Yeah.
I remember one that was just like a guy who was a welder, and he had used Claude Code to build basically just like all of his business ops infrastructure. So stuff
Oh,
to like
cool.
organize his quoting system and like manage
Invoices and stuff like that.
and even do lead generation.
Wow.
So, and he was like, his closing statement is like, I really need people to understand that this is not just generating emails with ChatGPT. I am someone with no experience in a high school degree who built my entire business infrastructure in like a week. Which like
that's impressive.
And that's why I keep being like, guys, this is really important. And cool.
Yeah.
And it's like I was gonna say I should feel bad about that, and I do feel kind of bad about that, and that it's eliminating my job is what this is doing. Except that I feel like I'm specifically well positioned, but it's like it's making software engineers a lot less necessary for things. But I also think that's cool in the sense where it's just like that the ability to build a piece of software that solves your personal problem should not necessarily be gated around like a 4-year computer science degree. Like, I don't see any reason why that should be the case. And it's cool that people can do it without that now.
Yeah. No, like it is definitely like, honestly, like I'm also like a fan of it. And like, yeah, like for that reason of like, it's kind of like, it's the rising tide that lifts all ships sort of thing, where it's just like, it's like, okay, yeah, it's making certain parts of software engine, but also like, yeah, it's one of those things of like, would that welder have hired a software engineer? No, heck no. It's like, so it's like, did it steal somebody's job? No, it didn't, but it did allow him to do something he didn't have the capability of doing previously. And that's like, it's a force multiplier in that way. You know, it's like, it's actually something that makes people more capable of doing things they want to do, which is really cool. So it's like, that's
some other anecdotes from the Hard Fork podcast. A woman who wanted to catalog her book collection for her husband so that he could just go look at it online and not buy her duplicates, did that, but then was also like, well, I did that and that was not that hard. What if I did some more stuff? And now she has a whole site where you can go there and get book recommendations for yourself. Like it's a book recommender from her experience based on like what kind of thing you want, and it will pull up something that she likes and would recommend for you, basically.
That's delightful.
Which is cool. And one other person who like the most random one, which is like a family where they were doing some like replacing handles on cabinets in their house, and they had something like 76 handles to replace, and they were trying to get their kids to do it. Their kids didn't really want to be going and replacing handles all day. So they gamified it and built like a tool that was like a leaderboard for their 4 kids on who had replaced the most handles and whether they had gotten the handle replacement project done. Which, as I said on that podcast, like, was that necessary? No.
No.
That was not necessary. Is it fun? Yes.
Yes.
And that's cool. That people can just like
Well, like what it deeply reminds me of, and this is like just a little like anecdote, is like in my family, because my mom's side of the family specifically, it's like she's got like a bunch of brothers and sisters, and so I have a ton of cousins on that side of the family, and we still like to do like a Christmas gift exchange where it's like we're giving gifts to at least one other person in the family, and it used to be like we would pull names out of a hat, and then you would have to like call that person's parents up or call their spouse up and be like, what do they want for Christmas? You haven't gotten that for them, right? It's like they haven't gone off and bought it on their own, right? And it was a mess. Like I distinctly recall one year somebody, like I got 2 copies of season 1 of BBC Sherlock, which tells you about when this was happening. I was very upset and it almost ruined Christmas. But like my cousin, who like knows a little bit of software engineering, he works for Netflix now, put together a website where one, it would do the names in the hat thing for us. So it would like randomly assign, people in the family for you to give gifts to. 2, it was like a wish list where you could put down, it's like, this is what I want for Christmas. And then like, but then also people could like claim things and provide suggestions. Like my dad is notoriously terrible at wanting things for himself. So my mom will go and put things on his list. And it's great. We use it every single year. And it's just like the best little tool. But yeah, it's like one of those things, it's like, if you don't have, like your cousin who knows how to code, you can't build that kind of thing. But you can now. You can do it.
That's the sort of thing that I think literally anyone, even starting from cold, like installing Claude Code, could do that in under an hour, I would bet.
Yeah. It's like it's very cool because I think of like that specific tool, how awesome it is, how much it's kind of like helped our family and how just like useful it is to have. And now it's like, cool, now you don't need a cousin who codes to get that sort of thing.
Yes, and it's like, as the cousin who codes, like, does that make me feel bad? No, is the thing. Like, that part of it does not make me feel bad. What makes me feel bad is the part where it's like, okay, startups used to hire like 5 people for their first year, like that you needed an engineering team of that many people, and now you need 1 or maybe 2 if you want redundancy.
Right.
And like big companies, just like there's only so many things you need to build, and you can now build them extremely fast. So building is not the bottleneck, and all of the software engineers are going to need to cut down to the new amount of things that you actually know you want to build, basically.
Yeah, because like it's so frustrating. Yeah, because I feel like if this were just in a vacuum, like if we could kind of just like separate out this technology has been developed and it's so cool, like I feel like we as a society would be able to kind of like develop in a way where it's like, sure, these people don't have jobs doing that specific thing anymore. Also, it's like, no, what if, like Mr. Welder's business scales up and he needs to hire somebody now to maintain his like business operations software that he has created. Cool, there's a job it created. It's like I feel like it would feed and kind of like create like it'd take away opportunities, but I feel like it would create opportunities as well. So I feel like there might be some kind of like equilibrium, but I feel like in this current society that we live in, I'm somewhat more doubtful about like that equilibrium being created just because of the nature of like kind of what we were talking about earlier, like the weird cult of personality around like the top tech companies and the concentration of wealth that we are unfortunately encountering when it comes to like, the upper echelons of society. But I don't know, like I would like to remain optimistic. I would like to believe that, okay, maybe you won't get a job at a startup being like, a software engineer or whatever, but maybe you'll get a job as a software engineer for a little mom and pop shop that like made their business operation stuff on Claude, and now they just need somebody to maintain it because it helped them grow to a point where they could support that kind of employee. So it's like, I don't know. Maybe this will kind of democratize it in a way. Who knows?
I think we need to find like new structures for that, though, because it's like, I do think if the mom and pop shop scales up their tiny Claude coded thing, like they will need someone with some software engineering knowledge to look at it at some point. And that's it. Probably not a full-time employee. Like there's not going to be a full-time engineer's worth of work for those people. They will need to have like a couple hours a month, maybe they'll come in and tweak the system or look at their bugs, etc.
Well, maybe it's kind of like your HVAC guy now. It's like you have somebody who's just like I'm here to check up on your little Claude app that you built, make sure that it's like you got the latest patches in, you're not running any like you don't have any like really exploitable security defects. Okay, looks good, see you in a couple months, kind of thing. Like who knows, maybe.
And I mean, I'm a consultant right now, so it's like I'm already kind of trending in that direction.
Yeah.
Because the amount of actual software engineering that each individual project needs has gone down. You need to split one person more ways, and then how do you manage that sort of ecosystem?
Yeah.
And then, I think everyone's just kind of still figuring out where the software engineering is left. Because a lot of people think nowhere, and I don't think nowhere. I don't think Claude Code will be able to do all of a software engineer's job, but that's because I think a software engineer's job is broader than just like producing software. It's being able to translate product requirements into technical architecture and figuring out the most efficient way to build a solution to a problem using the tools that are available. And like the engineering part of it, and not the physically producing code part of it. But that's always been a higher level software engineer job, first of all. So talking about the cutting off the bottom rungs of the ladder, and also just like how much of that is there to do and how much is that necessary? Because it's like, I don't know that the mom and pop shop actually needs that. Like, probably check if insecure, etc. But that I bet Claude is already reasonably good at, and will get more good at, especially as they build more tools around this, where it's just like Claude for build your tiny mom and pop shop app that is secure, which they already kind of have with like artifacts, but are going to have more of that kind of thing, I'm sure, because people are doing that a whole bunch. So that part I don't know, but like the sort of broader architecture and like, yes, there's Claude can put together a bunch of stuff for you on request, but like what stuff? How does it fit together? How well does it work? Like where does it start breaking down when you start piling more stuff onto it? Like that, I think it still requires software engineering, but also I don't think that happens to your tiny app necessarily. Like I think you have to get like say a broader scale, a bigger system than that before that becomes that relevant.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so yeah, like maybe not, but also like, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, it's hard to see at this point in time.
And I think everyone doesn't know. And that was like a big discussion at the Claude Code meetup also. It's just like, what does this look like in 6 to 12 months? Like, I don't know. And we're people who should know. So like,
yeah.
Yeah. And I mean,
yeah.
So
it's hard to predict. Like when electricity first came out, it's like it took lots of places a long time to like electrify, like to like install everything, and that was like a big effort. But then you still need electricians around because like like things break, and that like granted it's not quite the same because code isn't the same as like a physical installation that has parts that degrade and et cetera. But code is something that like it becomes incompatible with your latest operating system or whatever. And the code base gets patched and you need to like update and what have you. Like, it's not a perfect analogy, but that's kind of the analogy that like my brain is just like kind of latching on to, where it's just like
all of those things you listed, I bet you could just say to Claude and it would do it in like 5 seconds now, today.
Sure.
So.
Sure. This is where I'm showing my ignorance on programming, where I do not know how it works.
And like this, like most people don't know is the thing, and I think that's why a lot of software engineers are out here like being like, guys, you don't understand. And like I in fact was saying that to someone as we were mingling at the Claude Code meetup, that I was telling people over, it's just like, no, guys, you don't understand. Because like even people who know some about coding and like tried out the coding tools like 6, 9, 12 months ago don't understand, because they've gotten way better in that time already. And people who don't know anything about coding like really don't understand, because it's just like the speed with which you can suddenly build things that you could not do in anywhere close to that side before, and like the amount that it unlocks for people who couldn't do it before is just insane. It's wild. It's going to be intensely transformative, and I do think that this is only like the tip of the spear, as people say, where it's like it's hitting software engineers first because we're the closest to it, in the sense of like code is extremely available online to train on, and we're the people who are working with it to start with, and therefore we're really open to it, and it's really verifiable. But like there are other knowledge and like quantitative work fields that are going to be affected in similar ways, because coding is just like abstracted problem solving in its purest form to some extent. And so like that's going to keep happening more, and we're just seeing some of it here, which is kind of scary, because this is a lot as a person who's experiencing the tip of the spear.
No, it is. It's very interesting. And yeah, it is one of those things where it's like, we're not going to know what it looks like until we're kind of like looking at it in the rearview mirror a bit, I feel. Because like that's how technology kind of operates, you know? It's like when the internet first came out, nobody could have really told you. It's like, oh yes, do you know it's going to be really big? Like in later, times of the internet, podcasts and YouTube and like little TikTok videos. It's like no one would have predicted that. I mean, it's like, okay, like maybe 1 in a million people would have predicted that, but it wouldn't have like it was not the prevailing opinion that you were hearing kind of like people talk about. And I feel like it's only kind of like, like as we kind of got to like the content generation like era of the internet, that we were just like, oh, okay, this is sort of like what the internet is doing now. And so kind of similarly, it's like this is like what. A
lot of arguments I've seen about it is like, when the internet existed, everyone's like, well, this is going to eliminate all of these jobs, and like it did, but it also created new jobs that no one could have envisioned existing prior to that.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Like internet content creator. But also like
Mhm.
other stuff than like that, like
Yeah.
a data center technician or
Yeah.
like jobs that emerge from like things that become problems that were not problems previously. And it's like
Right, right.
it's
Like internet security, like your IT
yep.
security and like application security people and stuff like that who like yeah, like because I don't think that anybody at the advent of the internet was really thinking about cloud computing,
Hmm.
you know? And yet that like as we are sitting here in like this era of like cloud computing is just kind of table stakes now.
Yeah.
But yeah, but like looking back, it's like, no, I would not have been able to see that coming,
Hmm.
until it was there. And then you were just like, oh, yes, of course this. So I feel like there's going to be a similar sort of like moment like for AI or at least like a similar sort of like development of like yeah, it's like right now we can't predict it. We have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Um
I just
and we're not really going to know until we arrive at it.
yeah, we're still kind of, I mean, less so than before, but we're still like in like we have a raw technology and we're still trying to figure
Mhm.
out the best infrastructure to build using it such that we can utilize it in a way that works
Yeah.
at a large scale. Because like
Mhm.
at the rawest level, it's an LLM chat box, and that's how a lot of people still think of it is like it's a chat box where you go and you talk to Chat GPT. But it's just
Yeah.
like there's a lot more than that. And because you start with that and then you start building it up into like building blocks into something like Claude Code or into something like
Mhm.
a workflow that has multiple steps, or you give the LLM a skill such that it knows how to like the what was it, L'Oreal one where they had a Claude
Mhm.
orchestrator for their data
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that had access to a whole bunch of other tools and things like that. It's like I mentioned at that time, that's a pattern that has started to emerge is the LLM
Mhm.
orchestrator that decides what to use, but then it has access to a whole bunch of other stuff. And that's to some extent kind of what Claude Code is also,
Mhm.
because you give it access to a whole bunch of tools to do things. And
Yeah.
you can install other tools. And that one demo at the Claude Code meetup last night was a guy who uses Claude Code as his cycling coach.
Oh,
Um,
fun.
and he has built this whole infrastructure where he had like Garmin on his bike and a whole bunch and a heart rate monitor and a whole bunch of other stuff that just like dumped a bunch of data up into S3. And then he had given
Mhm.
Claude a bunch of tools to access and process that data and also the ability to publish it to a web app. And so you could just like talk to Claude and be like, "Hey Claude, how was my workout yesterday, like any tips?" And it would go and like use those tools to look at all of the data that existed and reference some of the data he provided on like cycling terminology and things like he wanted it to be focused on and etc in the like system prompts or the skill part of it. And so it could just do that. And like that's the kind of stuff where it's like it's using Claude Code because Claude Code is a harness that is able to do all of these things, but like it can
Mhm.
do any things that you want to do using a computer, basically. So,
Mhm.
and you just kind of have to teach it how, and the structure of how becomes the interesting part. And there's a lot of, I saw someone posting about how doing like skills and agents and how you hook those together is going to be the new, basically like programming language wars. Because
Mm.
because we don't really have any paradigms around that yet on how it should work best to just like logically structure your workflows and things like that. Um,
Mhm.
or they're still emerging. Anthropic has a bunch of like best practices on their site already because they're pretty good about doing that. But yeah, but there's just like a lot of that stuff that people are like figuring out day to day right now that it
Yeah.
makes it really hard to predict what infrastructure is going to exist in 5 years or even 1 year.
Yeah, yeah. Like, yeah, it's interesting because I think that that's like because what is it? I think OpenAI specifically has been doing ads that are kind of like that, where it's just like, "Oh, hey, I want to do like 10 pull-ups," and it's like, "OpenAI, give me a workout plan of how I get to the point where I'm doing like 10 pull-ups."
Hmm.
And or it's like, "I want a road trip with my sister, like from here to here," and it's like, and it gives you like the plan for like the road trip or stuff like that. And so I feel like, yeah, like that kind of use case, like at least the specific use case, like you're talking about with like the cycling and like it's like people just kind of like yeah, using it to access information and sort of collate information that you may not have had access to in like a digestible format is something I think like for at least like consumers
Hmm.
is like definitely like a pretty strong use case that does seem to be like emerging.
It's just like what are the building blocks of like problems that people need to solve that AI can be helpful for? And it's definitely more than just like a chatbot can answer your question or write your essay.
Shouldn't write your essays.
Shouldn't write
Don't
your
let it write your
essays.
essays.
Yeah.
Don't use chatbots to write your essays, kids.
But yeah, so that's Claude Code and Cowork, and a lot of people are excited about it.
Honestly, like, I feel like this is kind of like the one thing that is heartening me in a lot of ways is that like as like literally in this episode of the podcast, it's like here's Grok falling on their face really aggressively, and here's people actually just getting genuinely really excited and hype about Claude.
Yeah.
That dichotomy to me is very optimistic because it shows that the company that actually cares about building a good product and building something that's useful for its user base is getting people excited, and the company that only cares about one man's stupid ego is getting sued.
Yes. I hope that it continues that way, and I hope it continues to succeed. It seems to be doing well right now. Like I'm especially excited about everyone being excited about Claude Code. It was a fun meetup to go to. The people who are really excited about Claude are cool people, and I did have a lot of conversations with people who were like, "So how are you like talking about it to your friends who don't like AI?" And I was like, "Well, I started a podcast about it, which is why I was shilling the podcast. It came up organically. I wasn't just like mentioning my podcast out of nowhere. People were talking about it. There's some tensions here, right?" And I'm like, oh yes, there are some tensions.
Yeah.
So that was also heartening in the sense it's like those people are thinking about it. They're not just in the echo chamber. So. Thank you for listening to the Fast and Broken podcast. I'm Carly Rector, and if you'd like to support my work, you can subscribe to my newsletter at carlyrector.substack.com.
And I've been Teresa Kramer. If you want my voice on your products, you can visit my website at teresakramer.com.
And if you enjoyed this podcast, leave us a like or a review. It lets us know people are listening and helps more people find the podcast. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.